Hello, folks. This is Bob Scarborough with Tensoft, and I'm here to talk briefly about Kinect or introduce the product. Tensoft does a lot of integration, and by that I mean taking your business system, Dynamics BC, and integrating it to other applications. There are lots of reasons why you might want to bring other application data in. I think you all may know those: external systems, custom or in-house systems. And so really the fact that integration has gotten better is a great thing. If you compare it to where it was 20 years ago, it's come a long way. And a lot of what makes it possible is an API to API model, which is really the whole world, all applications are enabled so that they can listen to and accept data calls. And if you look at this slide here, it's a pretty simple model. The top is a comparison to a phone call, where everybody having a phone and being able to accept a call from each other really makes communication more possible. API to API from a computer perspective makes data integration possible just the same way. The challenge with integration is that just because we have a phone on each end, because we have an API on each end, it doesn't mean we're speaking the same language. So in the same way that you might have a challenge if you were speaking two different languages on the phone, we have to overcome the fact that each API is expecting or speaking a slightly different language from every other system. There is no universal data model out there for every system. And so each system we need to know how to adapt and speak so that we can communicate. So while the APIs make integration easier, the remaining challenges for the integration become doing a data map for each system's API, and so we know what one system, what language it speaks, what the other language speaks. We need to move the data across and convert it from one to the other. We need to validate the data, and so we need to make sure that information is valid in both systems, from the receiving system to the from the giving system to the receiving system. We need to make sure that the data is valid in the target system. And so there's a validation. And if things are not all valid information, we need to define error messages that give us information coming back so that we can fix the data and move forward. The challenge with integration to many systems and the challenge with integrating to BC is that we may need to do a lot of work to make this integration happen, even though there's an API on both sides. We may need to do the analysis. We may need to do extensive data validation and move that validation back to the source system. And we may need to write all of our own errors messages. And so what we have here in terms of Kinect is an easier way to make this happen. And the way we do this is we take the invoices or the payables or the transactions that we're supporting, and instead of moving them right into the live table in BC, we move them to a staging table. And so the staging table API is a looser format. It just says, did you get the right data names and the right data sizes? It doesn't care if it's valid or not, or does an error message. And so you end up with a kinder connection, a data connection that's easier to target from one system to another to move the data into BC. And what happens inside of Kinect is it then makes the call to BC from inside the application and validates the data. And if some data is invalid, it has predefined error messages that put them back in the staging table where you can review these error messages. And if you want, you can fix the data and push it forward. Then, from that point forward, it runs just like BC does. And so it's if you do make changes in the system, it allows you to track those changes. And of course, you can track those changes and go back to the source system and fix the data so the next time it comes across, it has fewer errors and fewer errors over time. So really, if you think about integration and how great it is, but then what the challenges remain are, even though we know how to communicate with each other, Kinect allows you to get the data in the system in an easier, gentler way, and speeds the time to integration and speeds the overall process that you need to make it work. In terms of the benefits, the streamlined integration. So we don't spend as much time building it out. We can do an easier target model. It eliminates the pass-fail model. And so a lot of BC integration APIs are really, is the data perfect? No, reject. Is the data perfect? No, reject. We accept the data in a close model instead of a perfect model, and allows you to then see the error messages without writing them all yourself, and allows you to improve the quality of the integration over time. You can get it done faster and move it in quicker. And then over time, you can see the error messages, give feedback to the external system, and reduce those errors or data issues or data value issues over time. Second thing it does is, because we've written all the error messages for you, it saves you a lot of time in that area as well. And so the error messages give you, a lot of times systems are cryptic and it's hard to interpret, and it requires a technical person to do it. And more of this moves it to more of a business analyst or system user can read the error messages and understand the issues and move it forward. And so the technical person's part becomes moving the data in, rather than handling their validation stuff becomes part of the business analyst and user community. And if you think about the reasons that you would do an integration, if you step back just in general, there are reasons you might have an external system. It might be an e-commerce system. It might be your secret sauce and you have some sort of application, web application or internal management system that does things that you want to bring in. It could be an external CRM system. Whatever reason that it is that you're bringing the data in, sometimes the finance team may not have direct access to it, or maybe that you don't have a lot of influence on it. And so the final benefit of this is really, it gives you more control over the integration process as well. Because we're moving data into a staging table, you can review it and finalize it and make sure it works for your system without having to trust an outside system fully, but still getting the benefits of the integration and moving the data into your system in an automated way. We do track the audit changes, so you have the full audit control as well. So that is really it, and over to you, Jason.
Okay, thanks, Bob. So today we'll be walking through the Kinect package, and let's just jump right in it. So the Kinect extension installs a few different interfaces for external ERP system, and I'll just show you them in the list. They pop up right in the search menu. Each integration has a listing screen and a actual entry screen. So let's say I go into the journal entry listing screen. It'll show me a list of all the journal entries that have been sent to Business Central with the Kinect integration and the status of each, and just basically a listing. And you can navigate into the details of each of them from the listing screen. There is also there's also a screen where you can edit values. You can either post them directly from the listing screen. Let's say you receive a lot of invoices or a lot of journal entries in a batch, and generally the totals look good, and you just want to post the batch of say 10 or 20 invoices for the day. You can post all of those at once, or select individual items to post, and they'll be created in Business Central. Or you can navigate, as I have here, to actually open one and edit it on the screen. The screen will look very familiar. It's similar to a lot of the other screens. In this case, I'm in a journal entry. A lot of the required fields, such as account number, dimensions, and things like that, are on the screen available to edit by the user. I'm going to go ahead and mock up a journal entry. So let's say This data comes in through the API. This would have come from the external system, whether it be our own revenue lens or our semi-op system or third-party tool that you're using to integrate to, that would map to each of these fields. I'll show you what it looks like. Let's say it came in, and I'll manually put the document information in. So in this case, I'm going to give it a document number, a batch we would assign it to. We're going to use the default currencies, so this will be USD. Don't need to specify it if it's the local currency. And for now, I want to show you what happens when an error happens. So the biggest feature, or one of the main features or thoughts behind Kinect is to integrate it in a way that's users can easily manage the integration. So the idea is to accept the data as much as possible into BC screens and manage exceptions within BC itself, so that the data comes over and a user can update any problems, manage any exceptions within BC, and it doesn't get hung up in some integration tool. So the first thing I'm going to do is force an error. So I've got a journal entry. I haven't specified a lot of that information. I just put in an amount of 100, and I'm going to actually try and integrate this and create a journal entry. And you can see the status of failed. So we've got error handling for all the data that's required by Business Central. In this case, it's out of balance, and I need to have a GL number. So let's fix those. Yes. Credit. And it's 100. And okay. So I corrected the errors, made the journal entry balance, and document total zeroes out, added the GL accounts, we're all set. So now we should see a journal entry in those accounts on the GL. So let's navigate to the chart of account. That might be the tree that I just did. Yep, there it is. General entries. Okay. So that in a nutshell is how the integration works. Generally, if everything's working well and you've got your integrations mapped and you get very few errors each time, your daily routine would be to go into the listing screens. So let's say we want to look at our journal entry listing and find the journal entries you want to post and post them, and just run it now from the listing screen.